In the aftermath of the Pittsburgh Steelers' 31-28 loss to the Chicago Bears, Jalen Ramsey reluctantly fielded questions for 1 minute and 13 seconds on his way out of the visitors' locker room at Soldier Field. The Steelers' safety used just 20 words to answer the first 7 questions. But on the 8th and final inquiry, Ramsey didn't need a verbal response, at least not an audible one, to convey his thoughts. Asked if it felt like the season was slipping away, Ramsey let out an exasperated, rueful laugh, shook his head, and walked away, muttering under his breath. As the Steelers dropped to 6-5 on the same day, their AFC North rival, the Baltimore Ravens, improved to 6-5 with a win against the New York Jets, the question is more than warranted. And so is Ramsey's frustration. Once holding a 2.5-game lead in the division, the Steelers have squandered their advantage ahead of a season-ending gauntlet that features 3 divisional games, including 2 against the Ravens in weeks 14 and 18 that could decide the division. The hourglass is going and the sand's falling through, Steelers defensive captain Cam Hayward said. There's not a lot of time for mistakes. With a 4-1 record through the first 6 weeks of the season as their division opponents roiled in injuries and turmoil, the Steelers entered their Thursday night game against the Cincinnati Bengals in Week 7 with a 2.5-game lead on their hosts and a 3.5-game lead on the Ravens. It sucks, Steelers linebacker Patrick Queen said of Pittsburgh squandering its division lead. Definitely sucks. But at the end of the year, there's going to be a lot of implications. More intense football, so can't wait. Beginning with the Week 7 loss at Cincinnati, the Steelers have dropped 4 of their past 6 games, thanks to inconsistency in all 3 phases. Before losing to Cincinnati in Week 7, the Steelers' odds to make the playoffs reached 84.7%. After Sunday's loss at Chicago, their odds are hovering at 50% per ESPN's Football Power Index. The Steelers cooked up recipes to beat the Indianapolis Colts and win a rematch against Cincinnati, but Pittsburgh fell short against the Packers, Chargers, and Bears as the defense surged and then faltered, plagued by recurring coverage busts and ill-matched schemes. Just knowing what's coming and us not doing nothing about it, Queen said when asked what was most frustrating about the team's current situation. You hear guys talking all over the field, communicating what's coming, and the play still happens. So it is tough. It's upsetting, obviously, but I know the guys in this room. Every single person in this room cares. Meanwhile, the offense, once the Steelers' bright spot as the defense foundered, slumped as 41-year-old quarterback Aaron Rodgers began to struggle and then suffered a fractured left wrist. And though backup quarterback Mason Rudolph had moments of proficiency, his turnovers Sunday proved costly. The play calling also struggled to find a consistent rhythm in the run game in those losses. The Steelers racked up 125 rushing yards in the first half against the Bears, but managed just 61 in the second half. We were trusting our path, trusting the O-line, said Kenneth Gainwell, who led all running back Sunday with 92 yards on 10 carries, including a 55-yard rushing touchdown. And I think in the second half, we just had to continue to just press more and do what we had to do. The Steelers have authored late-season surges to make the playoffs throughout coach Mike Tomlin's career, especially in recent years. Rudolph's 3-game win streak at the end of the 2023 season led Pittsburgh to an improbable playoff berth. In 2021, the Steelers clinched a berth with a Week 18 win against the Ravens and a Sunday night win by the Raiders over the Chargers. But all that history doesn't make their current positioning any less frustrating or deflating. Entering the season as the league's highest-paid defense, one billed as capable of doing historic things by Tomlin, and an offense led by a 4-time MVP winner whom the team publicly courted for months, the Steelers had aspirations of not just making the playoffs, but making a postseason run. As the team continues to ride the same roller coaster it decried after each game, the goals of the 2025 season seemingly slip further away. Rudolph has plenty of experience with the ever-changing odds of the Steelers' playoff hopes, and he has beaten them before. That gives him a unique perspective, even as the rest of the team was dejected after the loss in Chicago. There's never been panic here, Rudolph said. I've been a Pittsburgh Steeler long enough to know we've been down in the division and up, and it's a natural ebb and flow of the season. I'm very confident in our guys to keep fighting and end up on top. So what mindset do the Steelers need for the final month and a half? Ramsey found a word to answer that question. Win. Pittsburgh Steelers head coach Mike Tomlin said that he was optimistic about the status of quarterback Aaron Rodgers for their Week 13 contest. After fracturing his non-throwing wrist, he missed their Week 12 contest against the Chicago Bears, but the outlook has remained positive for their 41-year-old starting quarterback. As the Steelers prepare for their Week 13 battle against the Buffalo Bills, Rodgers' status is still up in the air. Rodgers was held out of the team's most recent practice, marking the second week in a row he's missed a session due to injury. With Rodgers not participating, backup Mason Rudolph took the first team reps with rookie Will Howard. Following practice, Rodgers spoke with reporters and failed to provide any clarity regarding his playing status. What Rodgers' absence means for Steelers. There is no cause for alarm after Rodgers' absence, or for coyness about whether he will play against the Bills. When Tomlin spoke to the media recently and expressed his optimism surrounding the veteran QB, he also made it clear that they will be abundantly cautious in their week of practice. Rodgers taking the day off seems to align with what Tomlin said in his weekly press conference. "We'll start the week with great optimism," he said. "Although, we certainly will limit him in early portions of the week." November 9th, 2025, Inglewood, California, USA. Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback Aaron Rodgers, 8, scrambles with the ball against the Los Angeles Chargers during the first quarter of the game at SoFi Stadium. Mandatory credit. Gary A. Vasquez-Amain Images. Gary A. Vasquez-Amain Images. Cause for concern? Rodgers missing practice once this week is expected as he works back into game action. He will likely be limited during the remaining practices and enter the weekend with a questionable designation. None of that is cause for concern. What will cause concern, however, is if Rodgers is fully absent from another practice before they take on the Bills. That would indicate a setback of some capacity, and it would point to Rudolph starting for a second straight game. Tomlin himself said that Rodgers' level of participation will dictate his availability to play in Week 13. "We're comfortable with the general trajectory," he said, "but I'll keep you updated." His level of participation and the quality of his participation over the course of the week will be the greatest indicator. If he can't progress or misses practice again, that would be serious cause for concern. Things are pointing up for Rodgers and the Steelers, even with a bit of doubt still present. The next pair of practices will be the most telling as they make their final preparations, but for now, the status of Aaron Rodgers for their upcoming contest against the Buffalo Bills remains a mystery. Pittsburgh Steelers star wide receiver DK Metcalf is expected to be limited to start the week with an ankle injury, head coach Mike Tomlin said. Metcalf rolled his ankle twice against the Bears, but returned both times. It should not keep him out of the team's game against the Buffalo Bills, but will limit his practice time instead. The Steelers' top wide receiver, Metcalf, already has a touchdown on the game, but his potential limited work could throw a complete curveball into the game for Pittsburgh. It would give more work to Roman Wilson and Calvin Austin III. Even still, Metcalf has struggled over the last month, failing to catch a touchdown and amassing just over 100 yards in those games combined. Pittsburgh has not done nearly enough to get him involved. Metcalf has been healthy for most of the season and has not missed a game. He has a usual rest day built into the practice schedule to get others on the roster work. His blocking has been a standout part of his game after the Steelers traded for him from the Seattle Seahawks, and that has helped power the Steelers into becoming a formidable rushing offense throughout the season.